On behalf of the network of Assistive Technologists, welcome to today's webinar, Otter for Education. Joining us today from Otter is Brooke Williams. And Brooke is part of the customer-facing team at Otter, working exclusively with higher education customers. And Brooke's been with Otter for about 1.5 years and sees firsthand the impact Otter has on our clients. And she tells me she's a true believer. And she promised to show up live today for us instead of sending her bot. So we're really pleased to have Brooke here and sharing all the new exciting advancements that Otter has got and where they're going in the future. So without any further delay, I want to hand the presentation over to you, Brooke, and let you share all that you got to tell us.
Wow, thank you for that great introduction, Doug. Thank you everyone too for joining today. It's really great to see everyone coming out together to have this conversation today. So maybe some of you are familiar with Otter, maybe it's the first time you're hearing of Otter, but I wish I could learn from each one of you your familiarity, but that's okay. And today I will be going over, I'll share my slides. So there's my slides for you all. But today I'll be talking a little bit about Otter for Education. I'll go into the history of Otter a bit, share the value of Otter, how it helps schools and students and faculty specifically. And then I'll show you also a brief demo. Might be helpful to see it live in action. At any point, feel free to put a comment in the comment area. If there's the ability to raise a hand, I see that there is, then feel free to do that as well. But just shout, please, if you have any questions, and I'm happy to be interrupted at any time. So if it's good for everyone, I will get started. Otter for Education. So Otter is a company that has been around since about 2016, and our founders actually are not from the United States. So they're from China, and they noticed that there weren't any tools or transcription tools out there that could pick up their accents well. And so they were struggling with that as being English second language in their work life. And so they were ex-Google employees, and they developed a speech engine, which is Otter. The speech engine is at the core of Otter and our capabilities and what we can do. And on top of that, we put a really easy to navigate, easy to use platform so that we can use all of these conversations and turn it into data. Really, the goal of Otter for Education, however, is to keep students engaged and give them the option to learn and retain information in a way that suits them, and not try and have it be the other way around. So Otter is kind of out here to level the playing field and help with student success. So I'll go into the slides now. These are just some of the features, but I want to more focus on kind of the value as opposed to features. But you can see transcription, custom dictionary. If anyone has any questions on these things, there's organizational tools. Speaker identification is one of the things that the speech engine does. So learns the speakers, enhanced meeting notes, AI powered tools. I'll touch more on that. And then of course it helps productivity, and there's some integrations that help to make Otter easy to access and use. But really, to kind of be a little repetitive, the goal for students in Otter is to engage students, to boost their engagement during and after class. So we found that students might be able to take effective notes during class, but it's how do they come back to those notes, and how do they feel confident in reaching back in their binder and reviewing them, and how do we ensure that those notes are going to be effective study material for them to get what they need out of them. And then you have full visibility too with Otter for Education. You can see all of their notes and all of the users. So very easy to use and provide Otter to anyone that needs it. Also ensures accessibility. We have live captioning on Zoom. There's auto integration with MS Teams and Google Meet as well. So there's different concerns that Otter can help with: sight, hard of hearing, learning disabilities like ADHD or dyslexia. Also mental health concerns are a reason that we see people coming to Otter, like maybe anxiety or depression, students whose first language isn't English, things like that. And then this is a little small that I'm seeing now, but here are just some quotes from people, administrators, that were really happy with Otter. Not going to read all of these because you'll get this presentation anyway, but one of them that I really liked was the UCLA director. She said, UCLA recognized we needed to offer students with learning disabilities more control over their academic accommodations. We looked beyond peer note takers for a highly accurate, reliable, and easy to use app and found Otter. And I think that peer note takers have a time and a place and are also great, but Otter is a great supplement as well to have. But the goal is to teach students to be self-sufficient and empowered in their notes, and that they actually do know what's important. And so Otter is giving them the ability to highlight and annotate what they think is important. And they can feel comfortable as well that it's all backed up too with the recording and transcription. I'm not sure if most of you folks know this, but a lot of our customers too are the Fortune 500 companies. So I work specifically with higher ed, but a lot of our customers are in the Fortune 500. And what this will tell you is that Otter is a tool that exists after students graduate and move on to their careers. So that is probably one of my favorite things about Otter. It isn't just a tool that exists in the education or academic sphere. It's also a tool that is highly used in the corporate environment as well, which I think can be comforting for students. So just some more little tidbits, kind of repetitive. We have some security and privacy. We take data privacy and security seriously. So these are just some of those steps we've taken. And then we work with over 2,000 schools right now. So we feel very lucky to be able to help students in this way. And that's it, a really short presentation for me right now. I'm going to go into the demo in a moment, but I'm going to pause and look to see if there's any questions or comments. Does anyone have any questions at this point before I go into a demonstration for you all?
Feel free to put your questions into the chat, or as Brooke mentioned earlier, is unmute your microphones, or use the raise hand feature on the Google toolbar, Google Meet toolbar, if you'd like to contribute. And before we get into the presentation, I'm wondering, Brooke, if maybe you can just highlight highlight a little bit about the privacy of the information, and that maybe go into it a little bit more, because I know that's something that does come up a lot of the time in education.
Yes, absolutely. I will go back to that slide, and at the same time, I'm going to ask Maris. Maris, you had a question. So if
It's
you
just
want to.
a piece of observation, looking
Sure.
for materials for our students. I'm from Seneca College. We're using Otter, and the idea of what to create. And I always like, if somebody else has created something really good, then I don't have to do it. I actually found one that was really good, was from Mount San Antonio College in the US. It is a mobile app guide. And I thought, wow, I'll just send this off to my students as well. It's the idea of creating, materials for our students so they can learn it, themselves and use it. That would be one, that if Otter had one like that, I would love to know. Did you know about that one from Mount San Antonio College?
So I guess, could you clarify maybe what, I've never heard of that, what you just described. Could you clarify a little more for me?
Sure, there's a link to it. They created a beautiful guide, mobile app student guide for using Otter. I thought, I'd give this to every student I deal with, going, they did a great job. I'm probably not going to create a new one of those. I just do tell students not to use the help link that they have in there, because they don't go to that college, so they shouldn't send them questions.
Okay.
So it's like,
wow,
materials like that would be very useful for us at Seneca. If Otter creates them, makes my life easier than having to create them myself.
Yeah. We do have some materials. We have a getting started guide and some other videos and tutorials and things like that. We're also making custom training videos as well. So if that's something that might be helpful, we're happy to do that. This is a really great guide, though, just looking at it really quick. I almost want to send them.
I agree with you on that 100%.
Yeah, I almost want to send them a thank you note or something. It's really good, and it looks nice as well. But we also have a customer success manager, a few of them, but who can meet with you or your students and do any trainings, like a live webinar training kind of situation. So we can follow up though after this, definitely, and work on that. I want you to feel supported. So,
Thank you.
yeah, but that's great. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, so there's a few other questions here in the chat, Brooke, and I'll kind of keep tabs on them. If you want to maybe switch to the privacy just for a quick second, and then we'll get back into the chat.
Sure. So to the privacy, we have a lot of privacy and security practices in place. We work with schools all around the world, and including a lot of law schools. So that is something that is very important, especially to law schools, of course, for reasons I'm sure you know. But they're essentially, the intent of Otter is to help further the students' learning. And if anything is used nefariously, we want to try and promote kind of the true intent of Otter and how it's meant to be used. And some things that certain departments will do is they'll have students sign kind of like a declaration of like honesty waiver or something like that. I did that in college because I also had accessibility needs as well. We also know that today in 2023, students are carrying around recorders in their pocket, on their phone and whatnot. And so Otter can be a way to address that concern head on, because we're using technology in the classroom, but with Otter, at least you're able to manage it and contain it, and you have visibility into the recordings, who's using it, how. So that is another way. And then I guess one other kind of thought that I'll show you in the demo, but we also can just transcribe and not record if that's something that certain schools would want. Sometimes they feel better if there's no recording and it's just the transcription, or there's also capability to pause the recording and still continue transcribing in real time. So there's different things, but it depends on the school and kind of how you want to address it.
Okay, that's great, Brooke. I appreciate that. And there's a couple questions that have come in, and I think one comment in the chat as well regarding the privacy after I asked it. And for, I think it's Kimberly is primarily mentioned a few things there. And Kimberly, if you want to discuss the privacy any further with Brooke, please either add it into the chat or unmute the microphone, and we'll get you talking about it here.
Yeah, no, I see Kimberly's comment in the chat. About
so
right.
I again, I've tried a couple of different like options, and I love otter.ai. I've actually used it for myself when I'm in a conference, you know, to take notes, and I wish that it was around when I was actually in school, but I have like tried to recommend it in my old district. I haven't really tried it in the one that I'm in currently, but I got a lot of pushback of teachers saying, I don't want to be recorded. You know, and you kind of answered it already by just saying that you can do the transcription alone and not have the recording. But I feel like for some of our students, they really need kind of that multi, you know, sensory, the audio and the visual. But yeah, so I just wasn't sure, like, if there's some sort of phrase that you know, offer up to teachers to explain, you know, we can put it into their IEPs and whatever, but I get pushback from administration saying that the teachers aren't comfortable.
Sometimes also a good way to address it is that this is part of their accommodations, and for them to really get the most out of their education, this is a step that's necessary for them, and that's the goal of them using it, is their success. But I understand it, but so we need to meet them where they are, but at the same time, you know, we're moving in that direction where technology can be really helpful to a lot of people. And so, yeah, I empathize. It is, it's a conversation we have with most of our customers at one point or another. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm in a new district now, so I'm hoping that things might be a little bit different. But yeah, I appreciate your input.
Of course.
Thanks, Kimberly.
Yeah. And I see Roxanne too asked, is it exclusively English? And the answer is right now it is exclusively English, as well as any sort of regional accent. But it's exclusively English right now. We've looked at adding other languages, and I believe that's probably in the works, but it takes a lot of time. So, yeah, I can't speak too specifically on it because I don't have any visibility into really the product teams, what they're working on, but right now it is just English.
All right. Hopefully we can give you some things that you can go back to that product team with today, Brooke.
Yes.
Our members are good at coming up with features they would love to see, or improvements on existing features. So encourage people to think of some of those as well while we're going through the demonstration in a short few moments here, and by all means to share those with Brooke. So the Lyle has put a whole bunch of stuff. We can count on Lyle for testing the limits of the chat, the chat text box in Google Meet. And he's got a number of things they're asking to cover in the demo, which I'm sure are going to come up. And he's got a few other questions that I think, kind of knowing where you're going a little, Brooke, with the demonstration and that, as I think we'll leave Lyle's towards the end. But there is another question came into the chat from Lisa. Lisa's identifying as a Canadian college assistive technologist and wanting to know if there's any changes to the individual subscription price and the process currently in place for non-US college students that are purchasing Otter.
Yes, good question. So for individual subscription pricing, I think you mean the pro pricing, and that's like our single user licensing. Just if there's like a one-off person, there's some downsides to this licensing because it doesn't allow for centralized billing, so we don't recommend it for accessibility, but that is $99 annually. And I don't know if there is any pricing changes. I don't believe that there is. Students paying out of pocket get a 20% discount, so it brings it down to about $80, but that can still be hard for some students. So
yeah, the difficulty where we were really having is, and we were trying it on a basis to see if, because these were well-versed AT students, we wanted to try Otter first to see before we moved forward with actually looking at site licensing. There is a student discount, but it's only for American students, but it has in the information on the Otter website that where to contact customer support, and then they would give the student rate. But the couple of cases that I've got where if about 5 months in, we're still waiting for that change in price. And I'll be honest, dealing with customer service has been very lackluster. So it's kind of left quite not a positive feeling for us. So that's why I'm here today to see if maybe if there's something we can salvage to look forward to in the future. So.
Yeah. So first of all, I apologize for the lackluster experience. That's not what we want to leave our customers with, but I could, after the call or anytime, you can send me the email addresses of the students that are wanting just that individual license, and I can go in my back end and in the back end of Otter, and I can just apply the discount manually. So that's something I could do quickly to help with that. Yes, and thank you, Doug.
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah.
So.
Okay,
so did that cover the questions you had there, Lisa?
It did. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right. So we got Lyle's great big list here. Maris has asked, though, is there a discount for students for the business license?
There isn't. So when you say for students, I'm presuming that you mean for student usage, but that it would be purchased by the school. And so
by the student individually.
Oh, okay.
The reason why is the pro license only allows you a certain number of, you can feed in recordings.
Yeah.
If a student's doing 5 classes a week, and times 4, you're pretty soon going to run out of ability to feed in recordings from something else. And the business license allows you more. Just that's the way it's parlayed, I guess.
Yeah.
So as an example, right, we have a certain number of seats for Seneca College, and then students will get it, let's say, through a bursary, and they'll be paying individually for theirs for a year license, and that's $245 to whatever per year for the business one. Can a student who is at Seneca and not going through our business license get a discount for the business license for them individually? I guess is the right way to ask that question.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have any discounts for like the business licenses. For those, we work on like a volume kind of a discount pricing for schools. So we usually try and see how many people in the department would need it and then provide like a really good price that makes the volume or the per unit cost go way, way down because I realize that's expensive. If we can jump into the demo, I think maybe now is a good time, but I will get to every question, I promise.
Yep, I was going to suggest exactly that, Brooke. There's one quick question in here that it'll be,
oh yeah, I see
think, yeah, from Karen about with the need to be able to provide service in 3 languages and an
Right.
accessibility concern. Just asking if there was any rough time frame that you could even potentially allude to for the other languages. So
yeah, I feel like I have asked the exact question how you just phrased it. Like, can you allude? Can you give me a rough time frame? Like, I have asked that exact question to my product team so many times. And so I'm kind of on the outside, but I want to be honest and say that I didn't even give a time frame because I don't think that it's something that is going to be even this year, or I'm not sure about next year, 2024, but I don't think it's something that will happen soon. So I want to be honest and upfront about that. I don't want you to be holding out for that.
yeah, the good news, though, Brooke, is as you shared with me in the past when we've been chatting, is that the feedback that you hear, whether it be in a webinar like this or whether it's meeting with your clients individually, that feedback goes back to your product team, your team meetings.
Yes.
And I think you were sharing with me that you have a formal tool that you use to submit all that. So the more people that speak up, and I know that's probably every single person here. So you can probably add 37 votes or thereabouts to that we would benefit from multiple languages for so many different reasons. So Karen, the good news is that your feedback is definitely going to make it back to the exact right team. So
yes.
All right. So as we kind of continue here, Brooke's going to head into the demonstration then of Otter. And keep the questions and thoughts coming through the chat, and then maybe after the demo, we can bring people back on by voice if they're looking to unmute or raise the hand.
Yes, thank you, Doug. And I am presenting my screen again. So, I got a question, or I think Lyle addressed it a little. And Lyle, I'm going to be kind of like peppering in the answers to your questions. So I'll make sure I get to everything in a demo. But so Otter is, we call it an all-in-one AI live transcription tool. And the differentiators of Otter from other tools are that, and this is, you know, can be seen as a good or a bad thing, but is that it really gives you everything. So gives you the live transcript, post transcript that you can edit, the recording, and the ability to also annotate the live transcript. Some students don't want to take notes within the transcript or annotate. So what they like to do is it also gives them the ability to like just type in text notes here, kind of just like you would in a Word doc. And so that is also an option that we like to give and just provides a little bit of flexibility. And a nice thing about Otter as well is that in the post transcript, the transcription and the recording, the audio, are 1-to-1. And so I will show you in the post transcript what I mean, but they're layered on top of each other so that you can get to any part of the recording that you need. And this is what the live transcript would look like. There are a couple ways you can access Otter if you are a student or a faculty member. So the first way that me and Doug joking about a little bit earlier is the Otter Assistant. My Otter Assistant, it's like my virtual Otter avatar. It's in this meeting now as a participant, and if you want, it will join any MS Teams call, Google Meet call, or Zoom meeting that you have. And so hybrid environment or anyone taking online classes, it can be helpful for that. And it does that by, you can just toggle on and off which meetings you want your Otter Assistant to join. So it gives you flexibility. It won't just join every meeting automatically if you don't want it to. So that is one way. And then for in-person, Otter has a phone app for Google or for Android and iPhone. And then additionally, there is a browser app that you can use for your laptop or your iPad. So it's pretty flexible. So here's what it looks like live. And say that the teacher's speaking and they mention this is going to be on the exam. What you can do is I'll say, I want to highlight this. That's important. So these icons come up and I can click highlight. Really easy. Once you highlight, it'll drop it over here on the right panel in our takeaways, which is basically just a trademarked way of saying notes. So sometimes some students don't want to manually highlight or select the exact part. And so if the teacher's mentioning something important that's going to be on the exam again, the student can also be more passive in highlighting it. They can go down here and click this, and it'll just automatically select the last thing that's mentioned. Really easy. So you can select specifically what you want, highlighting up here, or those icons are also available down here. So it really gives you the flexibility to use Otter however you want. Everyone's different. And another thing that you can do in the script is if the teacher is mentioning something that's due Friday, I can highlight a part and I can comment. I can write due Friday, work with Sam on this. So if you want to work with a student on a project or something, or just remind yourself of something important that's mentioned, you can add in little notes, little comments to help yourself there too. And it'll tie into that exact part where it was mentioned. Another great thing that helps students to stay organized and remember tasks, remember what they need to do, is they can assign themselves with like a to-do item. So we call it an action item. You go here and you can either assign yourself an action item, and that's how I use the action items. It'll put it over here again into the right-hand panel, really simple. And then I can write, finish this later. And then you see this little check mark. So once I've done this, I can check done. I can also access all of my tasks on my home page in Otter as well. If I have a tutor or some students are worried and have anxiety raising their hand in class, so a way that we can combat this and kind of have like an in-person office hours is if a student doesn't understand something in a lecture, a student can just put an action item to their teacher's name. So if my teacher is Zach, then they'll see that in real time. They'll get an email notification. And if they have Otter themselves, then it will show up as they're speaking. And so they can answer these students' questions and maybe explain and clarify things in real time, but the student doesn't have to raise their hand. So that can also be a very helpful tool, and that's how some schools use it. This is our live environment. Oh, also very important is we have automatic slide capture. So if it's an online class, there's the ability to capture a slide. So in this case, it would be that, and it'll tie it right in. But if teachers are presenting or there's a slideshow, you can
How did you capture that slide?
I just hovered right on over it and clicked that button.
Thank you. Sorry for the quick interruption.
Oh, no, that's fine, please. And then let me look at Lyle's question. So real time and post, voice recording and importing. Okay, and so I will show you kind of the sharing and importing, exporting. So here we go. So you can share the recordings or the transcriptions. You can also restrict this capability if you don't want students to do that. But that's how you would do it. You would just add in the email there. I'll pause here, and if we can get any questions we have about what you're seeing here in the live environment, then I'm going to go to the post environment. Maris, yes.
No worries. I'm anticipating this is integrated into your calendar, and therefore, in doing that, students don't want to be integrated. You know, you captured the slide. You know, because if they are integrated, it'll say Maris has started recording to the whole class in Zoom if it's integrated. Maris doesn't want that to happen. So I'm anticipating we can't see the slides together. That's only happening because it's integrated into this slide presentation. Is that right?
Yes.
Like you've got this presentation going and you're integrated into this, and therefore the slide appears on the right so that you can capture it.
Right. No, that's a good question. And yes,
I'm thinking if the student has it, are they able to take a picture of the slide on the screen with their phone while they're recording? I think that was my feeling. You can do that.
Yeah, no, great questions, because students don't want to be known, and you don't want people to always know if not everyone in the class has an Otter assistant and whatnot. So we would recommend changing the names of the Otter assistant. That is something that most of our schools do for students. Additionally, you can upload the slides afterwards. And so that is the option with slides. As Maris, you mentioned, you can also take photos with your phone. And because there's a phone app, you can have your Otter app up on your phone and take a photo with your phone, and instantly it'll show up on your desktop.
And let me ask one more question with that in the same line. Is that available in the free account or just in the pro or the business? That ability?
No, that's available in the free.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes. We had another question.
Yeah, Brooke, there was Clark had put a question in so that Clark typed it into the chat before he forgot it, and it was actually about importing the slides, which is great that she answered that. But just to dovetail in there, is the second part of it is, if you can, which now we know you can add these slides in afterwards, is how can you sync the transcription and the recording to those slides after the fact? Is that something you're going to cover in the next section of your demo?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I see also that's a great question, is there a way to import slides for an in-person lecture before it starts? So what I would...
Oh, Clark has just clarified here. He's meaning actually importing the slides before the lecture.
Yes. So what I would recommend is that the teacher maybe send the student the slides, and they can have it saved. And then right when class starts, or if it's a minute before or something, they can start their recording or for the lecture, and then they can import it at that point.
Okay. All right. So,
Yeah.
okay. And then we've got Anne was just wanting to clarify what does what is the purpose of the Otter Assistant? Why would you want to use it?
Good question. So Otter Assistant just makes it really easy to join any online classes that are over Zoom or Google Meet for students. And also it allows them to wear headphones like this, and it will even pick up the internal speaker there and transcribe. So if you're wearing headphones and you don't have Otter Assistant in, it's only going to hear me talk and transcribe me talking. So you probably want both sides. And so that's where Otter Assistant too can be helpful. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And Kelly was asking, can you add comments and actions afterwards or only when it's live?
You can add them after as well.
Perfect. And Sebastian wants to know how you can change the name of the Otter Assistant.
Ooh, that's a good question. And that's not something I can do. So for certain customers, like if the school requests it, that's something I have to request my product team to like turn on the capability to do that. But yeah, it would just be as simple as you like changing it in your settings, but it has to be turned on.
Okay, so once it's turned on, it's as simple as the individual user going in and making the change.
Yeah, just editing it.
Okay. And I think you have one of your colleagues in the audience, or somebody who could certainly help you with sales here. Is Chalice, if I'm saying that correctly, noted that instead of changing the name to protect privacy for the assistant for students who are using it, wouldn't it be better if it was just available to all students? And then
I think so.
So a Otter sales employee in the making here for
I'll help you with that one. The student who has the accommodation letter has signed something saying they will not share the recording. You give it to everybody. Guess what? Poof! It's now posted on other sites, and that is the challenge with having it available for all students and not having them sign something saying they won't post it. Not that they won't, but you know, that is the challenge for getting it to all students.
Yeah. I think there's always going to be challenges with any scenario. So it's kind of just like if the need for the student is big enough, if you think it's really going to help and benefit them, then let's work together to try and come up with some ideas and figure it out. But I completely agree. Yeah, and it's definitely a big topic of conversation.
Yeah, just as was just mentioned in the chat, is get everybody to sign the agreement saying that they won't post it, and then challenges everywhere. Whenever we get one of these tools that helps, there's always ways to turn it around and kind of see the negative side, unfortunately. So, all right, I think we're caught up with the questions, other than a few of the things that Lyle might have asked you to demonstrate there. Well, we've broken here for a quick check on the questions. And that, does anybody else want to join in by voice, either raise their hand or unmute their microphone? All right, hearing and seeing none. Brooke, back to you. Karen is just asked, even if all students sign, it's easy to post anonymously on. Yeah, exactly, Karen. There's no fail-safe answer that's going to cover everything. So
yeah.
All right, so back to you, Brooke, for the rest of the demonstration.
Sure. So this is the live environment, and there's been a couple studies done actually that, depending on what kind of learner you are, whether you do best visually or auditory or kinesthetically, that using Otter kind of encompasses all of those. And that even if we're hearing something and in a lecture, reading the words on a screen is also a great North Star for some students to really focus, and it just increases the ways that it's going into their brain and really cementing in the information there. So that's how also a lot of students use it. It's pretty flexible that way. And going into the post environment, I'll show you what that looks like, and I'll also get to more of Lyle's questions. So students can organize folders. They're like virtual folders, literal virtual binders, for any of their calls or conversations. And so it'll look like this, but they can create a folder with any name. Folder. Really easy for them to decide how they want to set things up. If there's any groups, or if they have a tutor, or if there's a teacher that automatically wants to share out transcripts to students, they can add them to a group. For example, I use that for my recurring meetings that I have, like my team meetings that are once a week. We just have one person recording it, and it will automatically share it into the group afterwards. So that's kind of how that works. Here's an example of a post transcript. And to briefly touch on how that works is, for the live transcript you saw, if we're in kind of a mock lecture right now, after a lecture wraps, Otter stops recording and transcribing, and Otter takes one swift go through it. And because it's already processing in real time, this happens very quickly. And within just a few minutes, Otter does a couple things. Otter separates the speakers from the live version. It comes up with these summary keywords to help navigate and give you an idea of what was talked about. And it also will give you an automatic summary of the conversation. And that is part of why AI is so great and kind of gives you a leg up. Because students don't have to do any work really to get that summary. That just is automatically generated. I'll go into each one of these in more detail in just a moment. So students can name their transcript whatever they want. It's really easy to edit. They can also edit the whole post transcript. It's really simple. You just click edit conversation, and you can add anything. You can also highlight anything, add any comments, do any of the annotation. And I think one of you asked about that. So the answer is yes, you can absolutely edit it after the fact. Has all of this information here at the top for you. It separates the speakers. And it's searchable. So students can search. Maybe they would want to search the word exam to see how many times exam was said and where to focus. Or you can use the summary keywords that our AI just picks up based on like repetition of topics and main themes from the conversation. It pulls these words out. So if I click students, for example, it's going to show me that students was said 17 times in the conversation. And when I mentioned that the recording and the transcription is overlapped, if you click one part of it, like this, it'll start to play.
Student affairs, athletics, those are the main pharmacies that are student.
So you can click anywhere. Accessibility is usually kind of the area where students find. So, and then it'll play exactly on that area. The voice engine, like I mentioned in the very beginning, which is the foundation of Otter, picks up on the different speakers. It knows me because, of course, I work at Otter, but it didn't know Jan before. So it just labeled her as speaker one. If it doesn't know someone's voice, it'll just label it speaker 1, 2, 3, etc. And it's very simple to just click on the bubble and you can type in someone's name. If you do that 2 or 3 times, it'll recognize them for all conversations going forward. Here's the images that were added as well. So you have the images, you have the tasks over here, and I'm clicking this area. You have the comments that were made and the highlights, of course. Everything also in Otter is timestamped. So if a student is thinking, I want to see what parts I highlighted that are most important to circle back on, and if they don't really understand what was highlighted and they want more context, they can always just click that highlight and it'll take them to where in the conversation that highlight was. And of course they can click really here. Easy for students to call out and play it. So it's giving them every opportunity to go back, review, further understand, and just cement that information in their mind. And also to ask questions and get help where they need. Lastly, the thing that I wanted to go into a little more detail on was the outline summary. And this is helpful not to take away work from students, but there's so many little worries that students are dealing with that we don't necessarily understand. And especially students that feel like they're not doing as well as they could be academically. And so we want to eliminate as many little worries from their lives as possible. And so one way Otter does that is we take this 32-minute transcript conversation and we have this auto summary for them as well to refer back to. It's a good way just to double check to see what Otter picked out from the conversation and thought was most important. It's also timestamped, so you can click on a certain topic, expand it. As you can see this arrow down. So Otter did all of this. And it's really a good way to supplement as well and take you to that specific point in the conversation. So that is the automatic summary, and that's one of my favorite features. Really quick before I take questions, I hope it's okay. I want to answer some of Lyle's questions. So Lyle, you asked about exporting. It's very easy to export. So there's these 3 dots here. You can click export. The exporting is really flexible. So it will break the transcript up by speakers if you want. If you just want the transcript, or if you also want the takeaways, like the annotations, and you can choose whether or not to export the audio or not. These are the different file formats you can export in. It has these options to show images, show highlights and whatnot. So very easy to do that. I can take any more questions now as well. I'm kind of just going back to Lyle's questions, as that is the core demo that I was hoping to show everyone today. And so I welcome any questions.
That's great. Aspen has just made a note in the chat that .srt is a file format that's available as well. And if I'm not mistaken, SRT is something that can be used for captions, a caption file. SRT. Good. So, okay. Lyle, you had quite the extensive list of questions. Hopefully Brooke has answered all of them, but I know that there's a couple here that she hasn't, and those are the ones that are going to come up that are outside of the demonstration. So before we get into that, to round out the demonstration, Lyle, did Brooke answer all your questions?
Yeah, thanks very much, Brooke Williams, Lyle Williams here, no relation.
No.
The last two questions about your competition and about the price, if you could address that whether now or at some point in the call.
Yes. I also see a few more actually that I didn't address, so I will answer those. So you asked about, can you search for content? Yes. Voice recording? Yes. Device, what formats? Device platform usage? We talked about that. There's iPhone, browser, and the Otter Assistant way. Integrations. It has the integrations with like Zoom, MS Teams, and Google Meet, as well as Dropbox. And if you want, it can integrate with your calendar as well. So Outlook or Gmail. How does it stand up against Glean, OneNote, Evernote from a note-taking perspective? Yes, so Glean, OneNote, Evernote is a little different from Otter in the biggest way that we see is that Otter has the live transcript. And the live transcript, again, it gives it more of a chance for students to focus, see the words that are being said, and also highlight, take notes on, and take action in real time as the lecture is happening. Some students like to do this, not all of them do, but that can be really important because everyone has very limited attention span. And there was a study done that after only 1 hour, you forget 50% of what was discussed in a conversation. So when you're actually in a lecture or in class and the ability to highlight in real time or say this is going to be on the exam and kind of tie your thoughts and whatnot in is really giving you an advantage and is really helpful. Let's see.
So unfortunately, on that note, with that study being quoted, Brooke, we better go back and do a recap of what we've done in the last hour.
I know. Luckily, we'll have this all recorded for everyone.
Exactly. So I know Lyle was asking here, one part of one of his points was importing and what formats can be imported. I guess after like for recordings and that. Do you have a list of those?
Yes, I will share my screen again. So a tab. Okay. So hopefully it's loading. Okay, here is my screen. And so if I go home, you can go here, if you see in the top right, this import button, and you can drag and drop any of these different formats, or you can browse your files.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. And there was just one other little part of Lyle's original questions list there that exactly, Lyle. Sorry, but Lyle said, sorry, but I have to ask, why is Otter so expensive?
Great question. So the reason it's so expensive is because we have so much storage for the transcripts on servers, and also because to do the processing in real time that we do, and to doing the processing in real time of the conversation, what we call the live transcription, that's actually what gives you the ability to overlap the audio and the transcript. And that allows for really quick, easy recall and references after a lecture. But that is very expensive. That said, because I work specifically in higher education and we want Otter to be something that is accessible, that's one of our values. And so we're able to do a lot of kind of pricing I'll call it like a volume pricing discounts and whatnot for our education customers that aren't available to corporate customers and whatnot. So if you're looking to accommodate like a group of people, you would just have to talk to me, and then we will work with you to make the price lower.
So playing on the fact that we have Brooke Williams and Lyle Williams. Brooke, on that note, Brooke will be able to give the schools and the educational customers, especially the accessibility departments, in that the friends and family discount.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, no, it's yeah, so definitely not that it's a sales presentation, but definitely to reach out to Brooke before you discount, pun intended, the opportunity of using otters. So Lyle's got a couple other questions here, but Chris just put one in the chat, so we're going to go to Chris just to give Lyle a break for a second.
Sure.
Chris is asking, is the desktop app navigable by keyboard? Can you navigate it by keyboard is the other way Doug will phrase that.
Yes. So yes, you can navigate with the space bar.
Okay. All right. So as we get back to Lyle's a few questions that he added in here, just remind others, don't let Lyle ask all the questions on your behalf. Feel free to add them into the chat yourself, and or unmute, raise your hand, and we'll get you on here. And I want to get people's creative juices flowing a little bit. While we kind of address Lyle's questions, start thinking about some of the features and that Brooke demonstrated, some of the things that you maybe had on your wish list of, I wonder if Otter can do this, and let us know. It's time to give Brooke some feedback on either ways to improve Otter with new features, different little modifications to existing features that maybe would allow them to be used by students with disabilities, which is our primary clientele. Things along those lines. So start getting those creative juices flowing. Hopefully we can give Brooke some stuff to take back to her next team meeting. And so, all right. So, Chris just added a clarification here. Is there a keyboard shortcut to do things like highlight on the fly?
That is a really great question. So on the keyboard, so there was by mouse that I showed you folks at the bottom of the screen, but I'm not sure if there's a keyboard shortcut. I will find out today though and let you know.
All right.
That's a great question.
And if not, I sense that that's a feature request, because then that makes it even more accessible to those who are not able to use the mouse. So
no, definitely.
Yeah. All right. And Jim apparently is using Otter right now in the browser, and the presentation is in another, and he's having trouble creating screenshots into Otter. Jim, we can get an assistive technologist to come down and help you if you want to hold on for just a moment. Is there something specific, Jim, that you think that that Brooke can maybe help you with?
Yeah, hi. So I have it in Edge, transcribing, and I have the screen. I was trying to get screenshots of your of the screen of you doing Otter AI, essentially. And I clicked the capture the image button, and it just is asking me to download a picture from my computer. Like, is there a way to do screen captures on the fly?
So screen captures on a current presentation are only possible in that way if your Otter Assistant joins the call, because then your Otter Assistant captures it for you.
So if a student isn't using the calendar or whatever and doesn't have didn't think ahead and make the assistant active, then out of luck?
Out of luck, unless they have the slides either beforehand, or if they receive them after, then they can just add them after the fact or before.
Yeah, sorry. No, I don't mean to hog the presentation. I came
No
a little
worries.
late. If someone has like a slide deck, can they put the whole slide deck in and sync it at the same time, or
Yes.
do they have to take each individual slide and paste it in accordingly?
No, you can add the whole slide deck.
And I think as we learned before or after, correct, Brooke?
Yes, correct.
So
Do you have an example of that? Can you show us? Or have you already done that?
Sure, let me
Because if you've already
try.
done it, I'll just watch the recording.
Yes, I do bits of that. And it's happening automatically in my demo because my Otter assistant is here. So it's happening automatically, but you can also do it before or after. Sorry that I'm distracted. I'm looking at my
It's a little difficult for you to show, is what you're saying, Brooke, because your assistant is in the meeting?
No, I can show you.
Okay.
I'm just trying to find it. Okay. Conversation. Okay. So here is, okay, so here's the current conversation that you're seeing, and automatic slide capture is currently on. As you can see, this little toggle on and off. So it's automatically capturing these slides in real time. But if it isn't, then you can click add image. And if you have like the slides either on desktop, documents, or anything like that, then you could add them. So that's how you would do that.
So it's not synchronized to the text?
It would add them right in here to the text. If you want it synchronized to the text, then your Otter assistant would have to join.
And does that work in the classroom instead of virtual? Like if in real life?
Yes, you could have your Otter assistant join in the classroom too. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You're curious on the Otter assistant. Further to Jim, what Jim was saying there is how would you do it if the Otter assistant wasn't pre-planned? Can you midstream add the Otter assistant? Like if somebody on the call right now had the Otter assistant available and wanted to give it the link and I admitted them, would it start in the middle?
Yes, it would start in, actually, if it was the link of the meeting link, yes, then I'll show you again. A tab. Okay. Yes, so I'm sharing. So all you would do is see this little bubble, this little bar right here. It says paste meeting URL. So all you would have to do is just paste a Google Meet or an MS Teams or a Zoom meeting URL there, and it'll join right away.
So that could you as the individual, the real life person would be on using your Otter and doing it, and then all of a sudden you paste the link in there, and now you have your assistant in the meeting with you.
Yes, correct. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Appreciate that, Brooke. I appreciate the questions there, Jim. And you had asked just one other quick question here, Jim, and then we're going right back to Lyle. I promise you, Lyle. Jim, we just want to know, is Otter compatible with screen readers?
So I haven't got that question before. It will pick up any audio though that is being said. So as long as Otter's picking up the audio, then it will transcribe it.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'm answering the question right.
Yeah, so the screen readers that thing, and Jim, please correct me if I'm wrong, the screen readers that we would, as assistive technologists, that we would be supporting students with, screen readers are reading the content off of the screen and out loud to a person who's visually impaired or blind, and it's allowing that individual through the screen reader to navigate the controls and the content on the computer and be able to interact. So,
oh. Okay, now I understand. I don't believe it is compatible with screen readers, unfortunately, but I will find out for sure today.
Sorry, I didn't mean to kind of, if anybody heard me kind of giggle a little there out loud at the most inappropriate time for you, Brooke, there. I'm very sorry.
No worries.
But I have all these people's Otter AIs are joining the meeting now.
Really?
Yeah, we just had 2 of them pop in. So
I see one.
Yeah, Angela and Jim have just popped their assistant into the meeting. So sorry, how can you not kind of laugh at that? Give an assistive technologist something that they can try, and well, we're not afraid to try it.
Yes.
To the point where it gets us in trouble quite often. All right, so we're going to go back to Lyle's questions. Rapid fire, Brooke. Are there highlighter color choices?
Not that I know of, but that is an interesting question, and I will figure out if that's possible, but I'm going to say no right now, but that is interesting.
All right, there's another feature request. So next rapid fire one here is how is it determining the auto-generated keywords?
It is the magic of AI. It's just our natural language processing speech engine, and there's algorithms within it that select the most repeated words, I believe. So I think that is how it generates the keywords.
Perfect. So the answer to that really is it's like the Cadbury secret. Everybody has their thoughts of how it works, but nobody really knows. It just does.
Well, that's kind of why it's great, is there's no like actual person back there working with your data or your conversations. It's a machine. So
all right.
Yeah.
So
just a set of rules.
And can you omit or redact any aspects of the recording or transcription?
Yes. Yes. So I'm going to share my screen again in a second.
Brooke is going to be giving lessons on how to use Google Meet by the end of this session today.
Yeah. Okay. So a way to do that is if you, it's not sharing quite yet. Okay. So if you see this little button down here, turn it off. Sorry. Okay. So we go to the very bottom and it's upset at me. Okay. So for example, starting a new one. So if you have a recording going like this, and there's something that you don't want Otter to pick up on, then you would just go over here and click the pause recording. And so I can keep going and I can keep speaking, and it's going to pause. Essentially, it's not going to get it. And then I can resume recording again, and it picks it up and kind of restarts. So that's one way to do it in the moment.
Can you do it afterwards?
Yes, you can, but only admins can. So like the average person, the average user or a student, I don't believe could, but I believe admins can. And I'm not sure how admins would do that. A lot of my customers, not lots of them do that, but yes. So, but if you would like to do that and that's important, we could have a follow-up conversation. And
All right, so
it's
possible, and it's a little more technical, and it's
yeah.
it's something that would potentially involve some other people to get it activated on the account as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Last one of Lyle's questions, unless he adds more into the chat, is can you have simultaneous access, example, one device at the podium and a laptop to monitor?
Yes. So could you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yep. Can you have simultaneous access, example, one device at the podium and a laptop to monitor? And I think what Lyle, hopefully Lyle's still with us and he can maybe clarify. I think he's meaning one device at the podium and then it also on a laptop or an external monitor.
Oh, got it. Yes, you could. Yes. So yes, you can have Otter signed into the same account open on multiple devices at the same time if you want the words to show and you want to be highlighting elsewhere. Yes, you can do that. I would just recommend muting all of them but one.
Perfect. And actually, as you were describing and answering that, Brooke, Nate has just added into the chat that, yep, done it. Simultaneous access. So
thanks, Nate.
And Clark has added that he's also had a student who used simultaneous access, one with the professor, one with prof following along on the laptop, and the student said it was great. So there you go, Lyle. It's definitely, if you didn't believe Brooke, you can believe Nate and Clark. So, all right. There was Jim had asked in the chat if you could describe the privacy policy in reference to lecturers' information. I know we talked a little bit about that, and I know Jim came in late. So, if I could summarize that for us, Jim, it's the typical privacy policy, same concerns that we have with all lecturers being recorded, but I'll let Brooke talk to whether the data is stored in Canada and the way in which Otter themselves handle the privacy of your data.
Yeah, so the data is stored in Oregon in the United States.
Okay, so in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm saying that correctly, Wink is going to correct me on that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so to kind of like give a little bit more reference, Oregon. So to give a little more reference detail to the privacy policy, most of our school or higher ed customers will either take a look at our SOC 2 Type 2, go through that, ask any questions there, or they'll provide us with like their IT department has a questionnaire, like a security questionnaire, asking about, our practices in detail and things like that. And so I apologize if it seems like I'm glossing over the security aspect. That's not my language, to be honest. So, but that's usually how we handle that. So we have a SOC 2 Type 2, and then I have that slide that you will all be receiving.
And I think you mentioned that that your security and privacy policies have run up against the law schools, the finest law schools, yes. And they're good with it. So it's a case that it's as mysterious as it is when you get right down to it and start dissecting it and looking at it. It covers us, with the exception of the data is not being stored in Canada for our customers. So,
I know. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. And thanks, Wink, for not making fun of my pronunciation. Wink's taking a day off and giving her an opportunity. So, all right. Okay. So I think we're caught up. Oh, actually, Karen has just put in here, I have Otter open on the screen and the actual meeting open on another, and it's working great. So that's another vote for the simultaneous access that Lyle was asking about. So, okay. And Angela is asking something here. I think this might be something to do with more Google Meet, but when Angela added the Otter Assistant to the private meeting, wanting to know if I had to admit the assistant, and yes, I did, Angela. It came up, and I let your assistant in, and you're saying here that you're thinking about virtual classes, and the instructor sets up to only allow authenticated users with the institutional access. And then to get Otter assistants to work, you'll have to have the Otter domain to the meeting and so on as an exception. And wondering if we can confirm this, and is the domain otter.ai or so. Brooke, do you know anything about those technical details, or is that a support question?
I believe the domain, I mean, the website is otter.ai. So yes, I can confirm that.
Is it? Yeah. If you could put that to your support team and just ask them if that's okay. Like when the I think and Angela, correct both Brooke and or I if we're missing the point on this, but when you have to kind of whitelist people to get into some of these, and I think specifically with Teams and Zoom more so than Google Meet, is you kind of need to know where it's coming from and what the domain that user is registered at. So. Yeah.
Okay. So, I will definitely get you an answer today, Angela.
All right. So, all right. So, unless I've missed some in the chat, and if so, please somebody either unmute your microphone, raise your hand, or add it back into the chat. I think we're caught up on the questions and comments are in the chat. So I want to remind people, if they've got more to add, please add the stuff into the chat, or raise your hand, virtual hand there, and or unmute the microphone, and we'll get you on. But I also want to give the opportunity very specifically for the audience to raise any thoughts, any feature requests, any modifications to how Otter works, and give Brooke something to take back to her team meetings next week, and say, hey, I really think this would be a great feature that the 10% of the population in the world that struggle with disabilities might be able to make use of. So, okay, so where are we at, people? We got to give Brooke at least one feature to go back to her team with next week, like at least one.
Yes, I have the highlight color.
Okay, at least two. At least two.
And the languages, I have that.
Okay, at least three. All right. Somebody in the audience has got to have something that they really wished Otter would do. Languages, highlighting, and Clark, go ahead.
Clark.
Aspen wants it to do her taxes.
I can try and do them.
Oh, Clark's trying to find his unmute button. Or Clark wants Otter to help raise his hand. Karen is
usable with screen readers. Yes, yeah, that's
so. Karen is, and Clark, not sure what's wrong with Mike, with Clark's mic. He's in the chat. So for a change, Clark can't do you can't entertain us with your Clark's a perfectionist when it comes to voice impersonations. Brooke, he can impersonate anybody except me. So Clark wants support for importing PowerPoint slides, PDF files, and like slide decks.
Yes. Okay. Support for importing PowerPoint slides, PDF files. Okay, got it. Yes.
And Michael wants keyboard shortcuts.
Yes, and I have the screen readers too.
Yeah. And okay, Shelley's. This is a big ask, Brooke. You're sitting down for this one. Handwritten note integration. Shelley's, are you able to elaborate on exactly? I kind of think where you're going with that, but I don't want to make any assumptions.
So think kind of the live scribe thing. So live scribe's not supported anymore, and there isn't a very good alternative. A lot of students are still, you know, some of us are very, very tactile. So writing the notes makes a big difference. and just to have those be able to integrate with the audio, with the transcription, that could be a game changer.
That's interesting. Okay. I will write that down, the handwritten integration.
Now, Brooke, I'm gonna give you a bit of an out here. Is we sit here as at this point close to 30 people still in the audience, and we all know what LiveScribe is. We all know what this handwritten note stuff is. So if you do, that's fantastic. But at the same time,
I do. I know LiveScribe.
Good. All right. We got to remember that we do this stuff all day, every day. So I was just wanting to give you the opportunity to ask for more clarification if you needed it there.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, all right. Somebody had their hand up there and I missed who had their hand up.
That was me, Doug. You, sorry, you added the point that I was going to add in the sense of doing that. It's really if somebody's on an iPad and they have an Apple Pencil, you know, in that little note feature, they write in there, and if it can make it into text afterwards, just like as LiveScribe's trying to do it in the on the computer afterwards, that would be absolutely wonderful, because that takes care of the person who's tactile in writing, doing it versus typing on the keyboard. And if it makes it into text afterwards, absolutely wonderful feature that would be.
I agree. That, yeah. That's very cool.
I'm understanding what you're saying, Maris, is with that ink to text kind of feature, it's not just limited to iPads. Some of the Samsung Android tablets have that with the S Pen feature as well. So please don't leave the Android family out in the cold and only cater to iPads.
I apologize.
Oh, I'm not meaning that for you. I'm meaning when Brooke
gets
I
this apologize
feature
to the Android
implemented.
family for not including them in my statement.
And
otherwise, they'll gang up on me later.
Exactly.
I wouldn't want that.
Want to make sure that Brooke also includes Android for when this is released by the end of next week. So hope she did. She's not challenging me on the timeline there. All right. Jim says it would be neat to be able to get the screenshot from in-person meetings through a webcam.
That would be neat. I'm not sure how that would work. I know it works with your phone, and I do that with my phone, but I will ask my product team about the webcam.
Right. So there's Jim's. Lyle wants learning management system, or LMS, integration, assuming it's not already there, to allow faculty to start an Otter session, and it gets captured directly into the course shell, or like the course folder, if you will, on the learning management system, but allows students to annotate individually during the class. We better give Brooke 2 weeks to get that one implemented, Lyle.
Yes, no, I've actually heard that a lot. So I hear you, and I will again tell my product team about that, because that is a big one. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. And just a side note, Angela has added into the chat in regards to Shelley's question earlier about the handwritten stuff, and that's that you can do it in OneNote now through the new transcribe feature, but only in Windows operating systems. So, and we've got okay, and yeah, sorry, Brooke, I just noticed you were asking Lyle about whether it's Blackboard or Canvas, and those are examples of learning management systems. So Blackboard, Canvas, Desire to Learn, D2L is what it's known as well. There's Schoolology. There's a couple others out there that are popular ones. So okay, where are we? Oh, and should have scrolled down. Chris, thank you, D2L. And okay, Gloria, my students would like Otter to be part of Zoom, and you just press a button and it transcribes the presentation and emails it to them.
When you say the presentation, do you mean like just the audio, or do you mean the slide content?
Gloria? Oh, everything. No,
Yes.
nothing specific, just everything. We want everything. We're not picky, Brooke.
Okay. Yes. Well, you can kind of do that now. If Otter Assistant joins, then you can get the slides and the automatic slide capture and everything. But that would be pretty cool if it would put everything in there.
All right, and Lyle's calling this the wish list for Santa. Okay, so all right, so we've got we had some rapid fire stuff coming through there, and building a few of those dream features out there. Anybody have any other thoughts of features they want to see added, improved? Maybe those features that are there just slightly tweaked. Anybody want to come on by voice and share their thoughts with Brooke, or add them into the chat? And Clark's Chris, go ahead. You've got your hand raised, and then we'll come back to. Clark was just saying thanks for the great presentation. He's got to go. So go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Clark.
Hey everyone, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, great. Go ahead, Chris.
Thanks for your presentation, Brooke. That was very well done and informative. We aren't currently using Otter at our institution too much at all. I just wanted to say, and I've said this before, I appreciate that Otter is leveraging the AI, and I'm sure we'll see our other services that we already leverage start to also incorporate the ChatGPT API into their product, because auto summary is phenomenal. Like, that is huge for a lot of our students we work with.
Yeah.
So, and I'm transcribing this call right now with Tactic, and it does a similar thing with AI. So it'll be, have you heard of that, by the way, Tactic?
I haven't heard of Tactic.
It's doing a lot of the same things that your stuff does, like live transcription. It pulls out action items, it summarizes meetings, it integrates with Zoom and Google Meet and stuff. So interesting.
Tactic AI?
Yeah, TACTIQ.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I don't know. That one, I don't know. I just kind of started using that one, and it's been running, and I don't even ask it to. So it's a little bit too. Maybe it's still too automated. Anyway, so I didn't have anything else to add. There's been a ton in this meeting already. Thanks, Lyle. and I just want to say thank you very much for your presentation, and to Doug and the rest of the team.
Yeah, it's I do want to say that there's two votes in the chat here for institutional affordability, and Brooke has been kind enough to just remind everyone that get in touch with her, get in touch with Brooke, and she can help with the institutional affordability. I get the impression, Brooke, and correct me if I'm wrong here, and that is that Otter would rather have it in the hands of the people who can make use of it and benefit from it, than to bar them from using it. But at the same time, there's a few employees at Otter that kind of need some food in the fridge and roof over their heads and a paycheck in the bank every couple of weeks. So there's everybody can meet in the middle kind of thing, but what you got to do is reach out to Brooke, and I've just put her information into the chat again for those who may not be able to access the chat directly. It's otter.ai, OTTER.ai is the website. Brooke Williams, and it's Brooke at otter.ai. So B as in Bob, ROOKE at otter.ai. And for the purpose of the recording, I won't read out your cell phone number that you've graciously provided, which is in the chat. But so
thank you.
Yeah. So the if you need the cell phone number or a phone number to contact Brooke for an accessible way to get in touch with her, and you can't access it through the chat it'll be with the replay, and or reach out to me directly, and I'll get it for you. So all right. So any other feature requests, modifications, any other questions, comments that we've got for Brooke? We've had a great session here so far, Brooke, and it's phenomenal. you asked me how long do our webinars go, and I said as long as they go, or as short as they go. And we've been here for an hour and 45 minutes, I guess. And lots of information coming out, and we appreciate it very much. But I want to make sure we give one last chance here for anybody who's got anything they want on their minds answered, or to be able to offer it up here. Anybody wishes to raise their hand or unmute their microphone?
Do you have demo accounts? I might have missed that. Like some we can play with, or trial accounts or something.
Yeah, so 2 options for that. Our free account has all of the same features, just less transcription minutes and less imports and things, but the features are the same. So if you want to see like the functionality and how features work, that's an option. Or if you want to like go crazy and use a lot of transcription minutes, there's also a 10-day trial. Thank you, Wink. There's also a 10-day trial of Otter for Education, which is also Otter Business that I just talked about today. So yeah,
thank you.
Those are the 2 things.
And would it be possible, I know with some products and services and software companies that we deal with, Brooke, that they have the ability to run a short pilot project with a select group of users at an institution? Does Otter offer that kind of thing?
We have the 10-day free trial that I can offer you all, and I'm just gonna paste the link in there. So yeah, that's the 10-day free trial of Otter for Business or Otter Education.
Okay, so from a like a kind of a pilot project trial thing to see how it goes, it's beyond the 10-day free trial, then it's that's kind of where it ends.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, not a problem. Some companies offer that. I just wondered if you guys had any kind of pilot projects. So maybe that's something else to take back to your sales and marketing team, is to have a pilot project to be able to get a proof of concept in the institutions before, so we can actually go forward with. It makes it a little easier sometimes for us as well to be able to put a budget proposal forward and say, hey, we tried this. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Jim's got a hand raised. Go ahead, Jim.
Hi. So I've noticed I've signed into Otter with my college account, and it actually adds itself to all of my meetings. And I was in with a student the other day, and the student's like, "What's that thing in there?" Because Otter just invited itself. And so I typically turn that off because it's kind of invasive. However, if I turn that off, then for the meetings that I want, I can't add it to other meetings that I do want it without it kind of trying to own everything.
I can show you right now really quick. I'll share my screen how I would go about that. So there it is. Have some more tabs. Okay. So Jim, I would go to your home page and then hover over your name and go to account settings. And then I would go to meetings. And from meetings, you can switch off things like auto join all meetings. I have it off. I think I would recommend most people have it off. And then you can, as long as Otter is synced to your calendar, like mine, then you can go in individually, and my toggles aren't showing, but there should be toggles next to each calendar event, and it allows you to toggle on. And so that way you're like opting in as opposed to opting out.
Yeah, I would suggest that maybe that be a feature that isn't on by automatically. I know it asked me when I signed in, but I didn't quite know what that meant until it was kind of too late. And it keeps doing it every time I log in.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, that's a good call out. Thank you.
Perfect. Great feedback there, Jim. Yeah. Sometimes, especially for those that we support for, and if you're looking at it on an institutional license for a wide group of people, large group of people, is sometimes the having to go in and do it individually instead of to turn it on is the safer, instead of having to remember to turn it off. Yeah. And we have some students we support in higher ed, especially, are working in environments where it's they may not want that meeting transcribed for privacy confidentiality reasons and such too. So yeah. So great catch there, Jim. Thanks, Brooke, for helping Jim with how to manage that. And Maris and Jim have both raised their hands. So Maris, you were first.
So for that one, Brooke, is there a video for how to do that? What you just demonstrated?
Yeah, I can make you a video and send it to you.
That would be absolutely wonderful, because that actually is what has happened to some students. I'm meeting with a student. I'm okay that I know that it's being recorded, but if they join into something else with somebody else, I need them all to know how to turn that off. So I would include that for everybody that I work with, so that they know how to turn that off. That would be wonderful if there's a video or there's a help guide for it.
Sure.
And Brooke, you can refer back to the replay of this webinar if you need help producing that help video. Sorry.
Okay.
That would be great. And if you're able to share that or any other commonly requested videos, or any other like individual videos that maybe you have kind of in your secret stash that you think might be of help, we can always put those on the resource page for the replay as well, which would be great. Jim, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just a curious person.
No
I
worries.
noticed so I had that turned off, that feature turned off, and it was the auto capture meeting screens. When that's on, that enables Autopilot. What if I turn that off, because it was finding all my meetings and stuff already, even though auto join was off, it still found them all. And the auto capture meetings, will that step in as well uninvited, or is that something that if I turn that off, what'll happen versus on, I guess is the question.
Which one are you thinking of turning
the
off?
Auto capture meetings. I noticed you had it on and all the other stuff was on as well.
Right. So it won't automatically cue the screen that's being shown, or the presentation in the bottom right of the transcript, if you turn that off.
Can you manually do it though?
I mean, yes, you could take screenshots of it and then add the photos in.
Yeah, that's
but no, it's not very fun. I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm just also envisioning, Brooke, a typical meeting that you'd be in with Otter running, and you're using all these features that you've described and shown us here today, and getting in your little groove where you're letting Otter help you track your tasks and your outcomes from that meeting, and the highlights in that. And then you go back to process your meetings afterwards. Obviously, Otter is an immense benefit to you, and lets you get through and let you kind of keep on top of all the to-dos that a person in your kind of a position would need to do. The to-dos that you need to do. Sorry, you can tell it's Friday afternoon here. What I'm kind of curious on is today's presentation with us. This must, on your end, from a recording perspective with your assistant in this meeting, it must just be, I'm envisioning it looking like just like a tornado has ripped through your transcript. And I'm equating that to us as assistive technologists. If we're trying to support a student with this, or trying to support a student with other technology and trying to train them while Otter is in the background, and we maybe are making use of Otter for building like almost little miniature tutorials that they can refer back to, and all these kind like different uses. Like ours is going to look similar to yours. So tell me, is what you've got out of, is what your assistant going to give you today from this webinar, are you going to be able to use it?
Yes. So what it'll look like is it'll look exactly like the transcript I shared in the post transcript. And as I said, it's processing in real time. So it takes just like a couple minutes to give you that post transcript. The only difference though is that because there's so many new speakers, which is fun, that Otter doesn't recognize, it'll label the speakers as speaker 1, 2, 3, and there will probably be like a ton. So it'll be up to like speaker 25 or something. So that's the only thing, is there will be a lot of those speakers, unknown speakers. But other than that.
But you were in and out of your Otter and creating new events and new transcripts, and you were turning features on and off. Like what's it doing with that?
Yeah, it would just, it ties it all into the transcript. And so if I want to access anything that I did, any highlights, annotations, it's in the transcript. As for the tasks that I turned on, those will be on my home page for me to see. So I have those tasks there, and I can just easily go back in and like delete or check off a task if I want, so that only like my internal facing tasks are still there. That's the only thing I can think of that might affect like my home feed.
So then I thought I'd seen you do a couple different meetings, if you will. Like you started started a new transcript a couple times. So does that stop the other transcript?
No, you can actually do 2 at once manually. And if you have Otter for Education or Otter Business, Otter Assistant can join 3 at once. But you can manually start 2 at once.
All right. So inadvertently, by us asking you all these 6 million questions, you just highlighted another feature. We can actually now we can tell our bosses as assistive technologists we legitimately can be in more than one place at one time.
Exactly, and that is something that I like to say sometimes for a little when I'm looking for a laugh. So
yeah. Unfortunately, it's I think everybody on this call here can agree with me that it's not just a laugh; it's the reality in our jobs sometimes, if not most days. So great. Jim's asking the last question here before we wrap up. Jim wants to know: is there a length limit or time to the transcription on the paid plans?
Yeah, good question. So on Otter for Business or for Education, it's 4 hours limit. If you have something longer than 4 hours, like an event or something, then you would have to break it up into 2. You'd have to it would time out and then you'd have to start a new one. But 4 hours.
All right. Perfect. All right. So Jim got the last question in there, and that's there's loads of information here, Brooke. It's been fantastic. The questions kept coming in there, all the discussion back and forth, all the stuff you were able to show us. Otter's come a long ways, and it's got a long ways that it can go, and lots of opportunity. We've given you some input into some of that opportunity. Have to say that we're a little selfish, and most of it's probably disability related, but still, you guys, you've got a roadmap. I know you've kind of hinted that you can't really share any of that with us, and all good companies I have found, they keep their salespeople as much in the dark as they can, because they're afraid you'll tell us something that then we're looking forward to and it doesn't come out. So I'm hopeful on that note. I'm hopeful that there's lots of exciting stuff coming out with Otter, and I want you to keep us in the loop about that. If it's a quick announcement, share it with me, and I'll put it out to the membership. If it's just a If it's something that you want to demonstrate and you can send us a video, I can put that out. If you're coming back for another webinar because it's a whole revamp or something major, we're happy to have you back. And we've thrown some stuff at you here today from an accessibility perspective that it may not necessarily be the most straightforward stuff once you guys get into working on that. So if you're looking for some more details, just reach out and ask. We can get you in touch with people who have some of that expertise and that can help you answer all those nitpicky little questions of what are you guys talking about? Yeah. So, all right. So, on that note, Brooke, again, it's been fantastic. Appreciate everything you've shared. The time you've taken with us this afternoon is fantastic. There's lots of thanks that have been coming in the chat here for the great presentation. They're still coming in. I echo them. I appreciate it very much. And hope to keep in touch. See you back here soon. Best wishes for the future of Otter and all the stuff that all the features we've asked for coming out very, very soon. I heard maybe within the next week or two. Kidding. Yeah. Again, any final thoughts you want to leave our audience with here, Brooke?
Yes. Thank you all so much for joining. I feel like I just feel really lucky to be able to spend this afternoon with you all and hopefully able to help in any way that I can, as you've been so gracious to help me and provide suggestions and things that I can take for my team. So I'm happy also to work with any and all of you and help in any way that I can or answer any further questions. So
perfect.
Don't be a stranger.
Well, no stranger than N.O.A.T can ever be, Brooke. Yeah, we're a unique crowd. So anyways, yeah, absolutely. And your contact information will be on the replay resources page as well. So definitely hope people will reach out to you with any questions or any conversations in the future. So perfect. So again, yeah, thanks for sharing, Brooke. Thank your colleagues for allowing you the time away from your normal duties today to be with us. And thank them as well for all the hard work they're doing in the background to make Otter so that you have something to come and show people like us. And on behalf of the students and others that we support out there with disabilities, and that I want to relay their thanks to you and to your company for all that Otter is able to provide to them, right from the very basic Zoom built-in captioning all the way up to what you've shown us here today. So, all right. Lastly, for everyone here today, thanks for joining us. Remember, you can't spell education without AT. And until next time, take care and stay safe.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Doug.